So still on this series on inspection and testing of electrical equipment, we are going to be looking at the medium and high voltage oil circuit breakers. So as usual, the test is going to be inspection and testing is going to be in two sections. That is, we are going to carry out two basic types of tests. One is the physical, visual or mechanical test, and then the electrical test on the oil circuit breaker. So in the first section, which is the visual and mechanical test, what we need to do is to compare the nameplate information, the nameplate information with what we have in the specification or in our drawings, to be sure that the actual circuit breaker for that particular section of the circuit is what is installed. So like we always say, the two most important parameters are the voltage, as you can see here, 8.25 kilovolts, and the current rating. So we'll look at the voltage and the current rating, which is about 1200 amps. So those are the two most important parameters to see that they are actually fit for that particular part of the circuit. So we'll look at them vis-a-vis all other parameters that are specified in the specification sheet, to be sure that what we have there is what is actually needed. So if it is a drawing that we are using, so it therefore means that the circuit breaker must meet all of these demands. So remember, we are looking at the medium and the high voltage circuit breakers. So which means that we are looking at circuit breakers in this section, the upper section, that is supplied to the transformer. So here the input voltage is about 13,800 volts. 13,800 volts. So the circuit breaker is expected to be used on the primary section of this transformer, or the input section to this transformer. So we want to be sure that what is specified is what we have in our installation. So next we look at the physical and mechanical condition. We want to look for any visible sign of stress, strain, any dent on the visual part, the part that we can see physically. So we want to check that there are no such signs on the circuit breaker. Then we want to also look at the anchorage to see that it is firm enough to carry the weight of the circuit breaker, and that during operations they will not play. We want to also check for the alignment and check the grounding connection, that they are firm. So if there are specified clearances and tolerances within the circuit breaker by the manufacturer of the circuit breaker, we want to be sure that such tolerances and such clearances are met. So that is what we want to do. Then the oil level in the tank, we want to be sure that we have the appropriate oil level. If it is short, what we'll do is to top it up with the recommended oil. So we want to be sure that the oil level is correct in the tank, and if there are bushings, and if the bushings also are filled with insulating oil, we also want to check. We want to see that the oil are at the appropriate level. So if there are breathers too, we also want to see that the vents, they are clear. Those are part of the physical inspection that we are to carry out. Then we want to look at the entire unit to see that the unit is free of debris. It's very clean. If there are debris, what we need to do is to clean the unit up before we proceed. Then we want to also circle the circuit breaker, carry out mechanical operations, just to be sure that the operating mechanisms, they are operating properly, and such operations will be done in accordance with the manufacturer's recommendation or laid down procedures by your facility. So the next thing that we need to do, we need to also perform some internal inspection if our routine inspection involves us opening the circuit breaker. They also want to look at the tank after removing the oil if there are any visible signs of broken parts. So if there are broken parts in them, they want to ascertain where that part is broken from. Okay, and we also want to look if there are physical, we can see where debris physically in the bottom part of the oil or in the oil. So those are some of the things that we want to check out. So once it is open like this, we also want to check the contact for signs of discoloration, signs of stress on them, check the alignment to see that the movable part and the stationary part, they are properly aligned such that during closing and opening of the circuit breaker, there won't be stress on those contact points. Okay, so we also want to check the interrupters, check the bushings, check the liners and gaskets to see that they are okay. Okay, so this is the gasket or seal. We also want to check them to see that everything is okay. Then we want to also try to slow close if possible to see that all the contacts, they are closing at the same time, and we want to do that with the recommendation, that is procedures recommended by the manufacturer, or if we have laid down procedures in our facilities, we also want to follow that. So if we see that there are no problems, okay, what we need to do is to filter the oil and return it to the tank. And if there are shortages, we top it up to the appropriate level in the tank. Then we also want to verify, especially those that are racked in to the switch jack cabinet. We want to verify that it is properly fit into the cell. Okay, there is proper alignment between the circuit breaker and the cell. That is, if that is applicable in our case. Then we want to also look at the racking mechanism, if the racking mechanism is operating properly. Then we'll perform the time travel analysis, that is the time it takes for the circuit breaker, the contact to close and contact to open. Though we will also do that during the electrical inspection and testing of the circuit breaker. So the appropriate lubrication oil is what we will use. So we want to look at the one that is specified. Okay, the lubricant. We want to look at the one that is specified by the manufacturer, and that is what we will use to lubricate all moving parts, including the current carrying part of the circuit breaker. Then after that, we can record what we can do our recording as to what we discovered there, what we saw there, that is as found, and then what if there are any corrections that was made in the course of our inspection. We saw that there are in the course of our inspection, we saw that there are some defects that we need to correct. After the correction, what we did, we need to put them down and record it as left on our inspection sheet. Okay, and then the operation counter, we also want to look at it. Remember, the counter will be at a particular level during our cycling, switching on and off. The operation counter will be counting, so we want to also record what we saw there and the number that we are leaving it at. Okay,